Beacon Morning, the most news in the morning, period. Weekdays 6 Eastern.
Not long ago, turning corn into fuel was widely considered a smart way to reduce U.S. dependence on foreign oil. But now the idea is being challenged because of the worldwide food crisis. The chairman of the National Corn Growers Association, Ken McCauley, joins us now. He's on his farm in White Cloud, Kansas, where he plants corn, among other crops. Ken, good to see you. Thanks very much for joining us this morning. As you know, so many people are pointing fingers at ethanol production as one of the reasons why food costs are going so high. An official from the United Nations went so far as to say using food sources to create biofuels is a crime against humanity. What do you say?
Well, we don't agree with that, John. We think that there's many factors affecting the price of food right now, and corn is one of the least of them, and biofuels is just one of the issues. But when you look at the energy as it spreads through the food system, it magnifies itself at least 3 times more than the price of corn does. We've also got a very low value of the dollar right now, and that's helping the person that's buying our corn for export, and not to mention the speculator in the market, the hedge funds, who's also in the oil market. So we think there's a lot of factors, and biofuels is not the main one.
Well, you know what the critics say. One-fifth of the corn crop is used for ethanol, and critics say taking that much corn out of the system takes away from the corn that you could use to produce food products, which drives up the price of corn. Also takes away from the amount of corn that you can use for feed, for cattle, poultry, drives up the cost of meat and poultry as well. What do you say?
Well, when you make ethanol, you've got about 20% product left after you make ethanol, and that's a very valuable high-protein livestock feed that the livestock industry is adapting to very well. We don't have any left at the end of the day almost in any plant. The livestock industry is using it. It's economical. That is one issue that doesn't get brought up very much at all. But the other part of it is that the farmers, the commodity aspect of the food industry, farmers only get 20% of that or less. And when you look at a 6-cent cost of corn value in a box of corn flakes, you talk about any increase, and it's very minute. When you get done with the price of corn increase, you're looking at a 2 to 3% increase due to cost of corn. We think that's really important, and we're really the scapegoat here. We're the easy target, and there's a lot of other factors that make a lot more difference than the price of corn.
You mentioned just a couple of minutes ago, Ken, that there are other factors involved in the increased price of food, and that's true. There are things like the demand, drought, transportation costs, things that you really can't control. But some people say that the one aspect of all of this that you can control is the amount of corn that goes into ethanol production. Economist Seaford Runge of the University of Minnesota said, quote, "Ethanol is the one thing we can do something about. It's about the only lever that we have to pull, but none of the politicians have the courage to pull the lever." What would happen in your mind if we were to decrease the amount of ethanol produced from corn?
Well, I don't think that's a reasonable tactic at all, because we're just growing the ethanol industry into a bigger thing. It's contributing to lowering the cost of gasoline. It's been documented now by Iowa State, the Merrill Lynch study, 45 to 50 cents per gallon less gasoline cost due to the volume of ethanol that's on the market. We believe that the $3.50 gasoline price you don't notice it as much, but if you had $2 gasoline, 50 cents off of that is a huge factor. We're contributing to our energy security. We're buying less Mideast oil because of it, and we're producing a renewable fuel that we can actually grow again next year. We're not emptying a well of oil that we'll never see again. This renewable is a really important part of this.
How much corn do you plan to plant this year?
We're planting 80% of our 4,000 acres this year. We had 75% last year, 50% the year before. Farmers across the country grew a record bushel crop last year on record number of acres. We think that if the weather cooperates, we'll get that done again. We're going to produce as much corn as we need. Long term, we're looking at increased yields. We're growing corn in a much more sustainable way. We're using less nutrients to grow more corn,
but Ken,
and we're using no-till.
Ken, at the same time you say that, though, analysts say that because of the increased prices of soybeans, a lot of farmers are going to cut down the amount of corn that they plant. They're going to go more heavily into soybeans. There's going to be 6.2 million fewer acres planted in corn this year than last, which may, even to a greater degree, contribute to this crunch that we're experiencing.
Well, I think the market's still at work, and we at the National Corn Growers have been very good to let the market work, and I think that's what we need to do here. The price of food, fuel, exports, feed, all those things can work together, but we want to make sure that we keep this momentum going in the renewable fuels area because it's really important to the fact of our energy security for the country, not to mention all the things that we're contributing. Rural America is thriving right now when a lot of the rest of the economy isn't. So, you know, this country was founded on agriculture, and we think agriculture is stepping up to the plate right now and contributing quite a bit.
Ken McCauley, chairman of the National Corn Growers Association. Ken, thanks for giving us your side of the story. And of course, this is something that we're going to continue to follow. Very important issue here, the price of fuel, the drive for biofuels, the price of food. Ken, thanks very much. Good to see you from White Cloud this morning.
Thank you, John.